Hello YouTube. This is Balamage again, and we're coming out with a video on the new Path of Building 2. There's gonna be two parts to this video. The first one, intro, what is Path of Building? Why is it very exciting that we've got it finally? Why do you need it? If you're new to Path of Exile in general. If you're not new to Path of Exile in general, the second part of the video is going to be how to fully utilize it and import your characters without the ability to actually import them right now, because we don't have an API. You can't pull the character in, but you can still get your whole character into Path of Building. So, two parts. Let's start with the first one. Let's jump into the screen so you can see what's going on. Okay. So here you can see I have two copies of Path of Building. The one in the background there is Path of Building 2 with all of the Path of Building 2 stuff. The one in the front here is Path of Building 1. This is from the original Path of Exile. Now, the reason I'm bringing this one up is so that I can show people some things. So to begin with, this is just from one of my build guides in Path of Exile 1. Path of Building is a full build planner and optimization tool that you can use for absolutely everything from your skill tree to links, supports, everything. All items can be in here, including things like jewels that have different roles on them. All of those exist in Path of Building 2 and Path of Exile 2 as well. This is the universal build planning tool that will probably from here on out be used by every single creator on every single build in existence for Path of Exile 2. The reason, if you're new to Path of Exile, that you haven't seen this yet is because Path of Building 2 didn't exist until today. It took a while to get it running. Now it's running. This is probably where everything is going to happen. It will be almost mandatory. A few good things that you'll get used to seeing when you get build guides from people is quite often you can have a whole bunch of trees or a whole bunch of different gem setups or a whole bunch of things. So you can include progression. Like for this particular build, how should you look by the end of Act 1? How would it look by the end of Act 2? How would it look by the end of Act 3? You can have a whole bunch of different trees telling you like how to progress. You can do the same thing with like skills, where you can have different skill setups, and you can tell people, hey, from level 1 to 8, this is like the setup you want to go for. Then you get access to this. It should change to this. It should change to this here, etc. It'll also cover your ascendancies and at what point you should take them and in what order. As you scroll through them, you'll see different ascendancy nodes being taken. Now, we're not going to focus on this Path of Building because this is for Path of Exile 1 and for a previous league's guide, but that's the important notes. That's why this is what it does. Different gear setups and everything as well. This will cover absolutely every point of build creation and absolutely every point of build optimization. It also shows you generally a pretty accurate version of what your full DPS is, which also lets you compare different supports, different utility setups, different pathing on the tree to see like what is more efficient, what ends up being more damage, what ends up being more tankiness, etc. So that's part 1. The Path of Building 2 is now out, although no build guides exist right this second as I'm recording using Path of Building because we only just got it. But I suspect every old one will be remade into Path of Building, and then every one you get moving forward will be in Path of Building 2. So that's why it's important. That's information for all the new people. Now you know what it is. Get it from the description of this video. There'll be a link there. Absolutely make sure you have this. But let's get rid of that one and let's look at Path of Building 2. Now, this is the bit that's for the more knowledgeable, experienced people. One of the things we're used to doing that we do very, very quickly and very, very easily is we just import our characters directly. Unfortunately, we can't import characters directly right now because there's no API and no word on when the API will get here. So Unfortunately, that means we have to do this manually. Very fortunately, manually, actually not that hard. A lot of people in my chat did not know you could even do this. You can do this in Path of Exile 1 and in Path of Exile 2. You can very, very easily import your entire gear by just mousing over any piece of gear and just Control C to copy it. Come over to the item page here and just Control V to paste. And suddenly that entire item just appears. You hit add to build, it's on. And so we just do that for every piece of gear we own. We just copy and paste in exactly whatever the pieces are that we currently own. And then once you're done with all of the gear, really importantly, it also works on your jewels. These are quite important. They're going to be really important parts of your build. You don't even have to take them out. You just mouse over them, copy, hit paste. There it is. Now, once you're done with that, because there's no import, you will have to set up all of your skills with all the supports in it, and you will have to set up your tree. You will have to copy your tree from in-game into Path of Building. So, luckily, I did all this beforehand, so I have myself a Path of Building with my monk on it. So, for those experienced in Path of Building, there's quite a few things that you should know going in. This is the very, very, very first release, so quite a few nodes don't do anything or don't work. For instance, right this second, the Coming Calamity, 50% increased damage for cold and lightning because I have 2 heralds on. Does nothing, doesn't affect my DPS at all. Tons of things aren't quite working. Like for instance, critical hits ignore non-negative elemental resistance. That's not working either. Like I've currently got 88% crit that is ignoring all resistances, and it's just not working. So when you're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, it is very easy. Everything in red, not implemented yet. This is the version 0.1. It's the first release to the public. This will rapidly get quicker. All these red lines will disappear one at a time and maybe a few at a time, and it'll just get better and better. For instance, the physical damage reduction from armor is based on your combined. That doesn't work either. So my max phys hit doesn't actually change. And if anything, it says taking this node makes me a little squishier because it gets me less evasion rating, which does work because that's in blue, but the red line doesn't work. Also, some skills DPS will be off. For instance, a large portion of the DPS comes from the bell on all these monk builds. But as you can see, there's a whole bunch of lines at the bottom here, all in red. If they're in red, it doesn't work. So you don't get 30% more area of effect per knockback radius. You don't get deal 30% more damage per elemental ailment inflicting the bell. You don't get 60% of the physical damage converted to the corresponding damage type for each element affecting the bell, right? So we're not getting all of these things. These parts just don't work. So there's a lot in there that's missing, but it does let you see things pretty easily that are bad with your build. For instance, I was unaware that just taking these nodes would be 3.2% more damage per node. So they're actually huge, and they're actually better than these nodes were, but only slightly, right? But like, that's a slight change with no extra points that I should absolutely have taken, and I did not know, right? Then we get to find out exactly how much a crit multi node would give me. That would give me, in full DPS, 3% more damage. Whereas a crit chance node, which you might think, oh, well, you're not crit capped, you're only at 88.5% crit. Yes, but a crit chance node actually only gives me 2.1% more DPS. So now I know, actually, a little bit of, if I get an extra point, the crit bonus node is more damage than the crit chance node. And we can look at that pretty much everywhere. While we can't super rely on our actual full DPS total, what we can do is just use it to compare with in a build. So, things to look out for with Path of Building. I would not be willing to compare any build to another build with path of building right this second. What I mean by that is those DPS numbers are just not going to be accurate. So if somebody's like, hey, my spark build, path of building says I do 3 million damage, and then you're like, oh man, I'm on a monk and it says I do 280,000 damage, but you know you annihilate a boss in game. Well, obviously the tooltips, the full DPS numbers, not all working, right? We just go, okay, so now I can really only compare my Monk's Tempest Flurry DPS to another Monk Tempest Flurry build, right? Like if you're scaling your damage the same way and you're the same class using the same skill, we can now compare to see which pathing is better, which pathing is worse, which support is better, which support is worse, which damage nodes to go for. We can hit our show power node and have it, you know, look for offensive nodes based on like full DPS, and then we can like look around for what should be the best. All of those things will be usable, but actual DPS numbers will not be, actual defense numbers will not be, but this is still going to let us improve a lot. So real excited, absolutely happy to see path of building finally. I have definitely been missing it. I'm quietly a little bit happy that it's not perfect right this second, because it will still lead to us spending a little more time focused on how the build feels rather than what the DPS number is. But still really happy with this in order to like improve pathing, figure out which way we're supposed to go, figure out like what might be better, dropping entire sections to go other ways and whatnot. There's so much we can do with this. I am excited. It is a fantastic time. I hope everybody enjoys it. Grab the link from the description. Don't forget to hit like on the video, comment, do all of the things for the algorithm god so that the YouTube favors me. That'd be very much appreciated. That is all I have. I will see everybody next time. Bye-bye.